Great. Okay. We've had a few more people jump on since I mentioned it, but as you're walking or coming into the webinar, we're muting our microphones and our cameras just to prevent that extra background noise. But welcome, and I'm so happy to see you all joining us today. We'll get started here in a little bit. We're going to be streaming this live through our Zoom webinar as well as Facebook, and this will be recorded. So feel free to use the chat box to ask questions now or throughout the presentation. I have just a couple more people trickling in, so I might give about 1 or 2 more minutes before we get started here. So just hang tight if you don't mind.
Find a list called grocery.
All right, I think we are good to get started. So just before we get started, I just wanted, for those who just joined us, wanted to let you all know that we will be recording this session and posting it for later viewing. And as you entered in the Zoom meeting, your sound was muted and cameras were turned off. You're welcome to use the chat option to ask questions at any time. And if you're viewing via Facebook Live, you can ask questions by commenting on the post. We will have time to answer all your questions at the end, and those will also be recorded, so please feel free to stay on once we are finished with the presentation. At the end, we're also going to have a poll, which is a couple questions for y'all to answer to let us know how the presentation went for you today. For those returning from last week, thank you for coming back. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. This is our second session of a 4-part series, and we will be addressing protein today, which is one of the macronutrients found within the American Institute for Cancer Research's new American Plate method. So before we get started, does anyone have any questions, or is anyone having any issues seeing the current PowerPoint slide or hearing me talk? If you can just let me know in the chat box, that would be wonderful. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we are probably good to go. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Allie Farley, and I am a dietitian with VCU and Massey Cancer Center. I've been working with Massey for just over 2 years, and my role with Massey is as an active member within the integrative health team. I work not in the traditional clinic setting, providing one-on-one counseling, but throughout the community, offering nutrition outreach, education, and opportunities. So our objectives today are to briefly re-review the stages of transition to the new American Plate that we talked about last week. We want to list protein-containing foods, both plant and animal-based choices. We're going to acknowledge portion sizes of protein food choices, identify how much protein we need, assess the benefits of protein, evaluate ways to swap out red meat and replace processed meats, and discuss some recipes that could be incorporated into everyone's daily meal plan. So let's get started. For those of you who were with us last week, this will be a quick refresher. The American Institute for Cancer Research's new American Plate is a plant-based diet that puts the research for reducing cancer risk into action. It can be a plant-focused diet with plant foods only, or can include moderate amounts of animal-based foods. The new American Plate demonstrates healthy choices for the proportion of different foods on your plate and for the portions you eat. You want to aim for vegetables, fruits, whole grains, or beans to provide 2/3 or more of each meal, with 1/3 or less coming from animal protein. This plate method emphasizes choosing foods with plenty of fiber, nutrients, and plant compounds, and limits foods that increase your risk of cancer while helping you reach and maintain a healthy weight status. However, changing dietary habits isn't always easy. A slow transition to your main goal will help with greater success. I want to encourage you all to start where you are at and make small steps to transitioning to healthier food choices. As you can see from the plates on this slide, Stage 1, the American Plate, includes a large portion of meat covering half the plate and starchy vegetables. Stage 2, the transitional plate. It's a little better with a more appropriate sized portion of red meat, approximately 3 ounces, a whole grain, and vegetables. Stage 3, the new American Plate. This sets us up for better health and success in regards to following the American Institute for Cancer Research's plate method of 2/3 of your plate offering plant-based nutrients and 1/3 or less of animal-based protein. Stage 4, this is another option considered the one-pot meal, also meeting the recommendations. This plate is a great way to incorporate a lot of whole grain nutrients and vegetables while using meat as a condiment or a small amount just to add some additional flavor. So as I mentioned in the objectives, our goal today is to review protein and how we can incorporate healthy protein choices in our diet through plant and animal sources. So why do I need protein? Well, let's first look at the science behind the macronutrient protein. There are 3 types of macronutrients found in food. There's protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Macronutrients provide calories or energy. The macronutrient protein is found in many types of foods. It is vital for life. The body needs a regular supply of protein to make and repair cells. Anytime your body is growing or repairing itself, protein is needed. This nutrient helps fight infection, carry fats, vitamins, minerals, and oxygen around the body, build and contract muscles, keeps body fluids in balance, and helps clot blood. So, what foods contain protein? As I mentioned, both animal and plant foods contain protein. And as you can imagine, some food choices are better than others. For example, foods rich in protein may also be high in saturated fat, which is an unhealthy fats, along with trans fats. These fats are most often solid at room temperature. Foods like butter, palm and coconut oils, cheese, and red meat have higher amounts of saturated fat. High intakes of saturated fat may increase your risk for heart disease and obesity, which we learned last week being overweight or obese can possibly increase your risk of cancer. Thus, too much protein from these sources may be harmful. For example, chicken fried steak, fried chicken, organ meats, spare ribs, and processed meats. Processed meats being any meats that have been smoked, cured, or salted, or has added preservatives. This processing can lead to a formation of cancer-causing substances. Processed meats include ham, bacon, pastrami, salami, sausages, bratwursts, and even hot dogs. How we prepare our foods can affect their health benefits also. On the next slide, you're going to hear me mention that fish and shellfish are better options. However, if they're breaded or fried, this adds saturated fat. Whole fat dairy, such as whole milk and other whole fat dairy products, should also be limited, while also keeping in mind limiting red meat to no more than 12 to 8 ounces per week. I know we talked a lot about that last week, and this graph was also included on my slides, but I wanted to keep it as a reminder this week that there is strong evidence with the increase of cancer, specifically colon cancer, with increased consumption of red meat and processed meat. So in contrast, numerous lean sources of protein are considered healthy options. Eating plans that include low-fat dairy products, skinless poultry, fish, beans, lentils, and soy foods may help improve your health. On this slide, you will find some nutritious protein food options such as lean cuts of beef, pork loin, skinless chicken and turkey, salmon, tuna, cod, and shrimp, low-fat or fat-free dairy foods such as yogurt, milk, cheese, and cottage cheese, legumes such as beans, lentils, soy, peanut butter, nuts and seeds. For example, walnuts, almond, and pumpkin seeds are all great options. So when we're talking about protein choices, how much protein is actually provided in those healthier options? Well, if you look at this chart here, you'll see that 3/4 of a cup of tofu can offer up to 19 grams, while a half a cup of cooked soybeans offers 15 grams, perhaps 2 tablespoons of peanut butter offering 7 grams, and a half a cup of cooked beans, also 7 grams, nuts, 6 grams, hummus, 1/4 of a cup offers you 5 grams, cooked quinoa. Quinoa we traditionally think of as a whole grain, but it also offers a good source of protein, giving you 4 grams. Many of your leaner animal choice proteins offer anywhere from 17 to 23 grams of protein. And it just kind of a rule of thumb to think about maybe is considering 6 to 10 grams with snacks and maybe 15 to 20 grams with meals. So keeping all that in mind, I want to kind of go on to the next slide here, and you see how much protein do I really need? Well, most healthy adults should aim for at least the recommended dietary allowance for their age and gender. Individuals who are very physically active, are pregnant or breastfeeding, or have certain medical conditions may need more protein. This chart includes general protein recommendations for individuals ages 2 and older, and the recommendations are given in 1 ounce equivalents. So for example, 1 ounce of cooked meat, poultry or fish, 1/4 a cup of cooked beans, maybe 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and half an ounce of nuts or seeds. If we're looking here from ages 19 to perhaps 51 years of age, we're looking at anywhere from 5 ounces to 6.5 ounce equivalents. And I do see we have a question here on the chat, which I'm definitely going to address here in just a few minutes, either at the end or when we get closer to that topic. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise, but I'm back to that. When we're talking about protein and serving sizes as well, and just meeting our needs, maybe some examples would be for breakfast, having 2 eggs scrambled, such as 2 ounces of protein. Then maybe lunch, incorporating a tablespoon of peanut butter, which gives you 1 ounce of protein. And then for dinner, we have maybe 3-ounce piece of salmon, which gives you an additional 3 ounces of protein, adding up to about 6 ounces for the day, which is great. We really want to make a goal to balance out your protein throughout the day so that you're not loading up really in the evening. So making meat a modest part of your diet is important. I keep saying this, we want to limit your cooked red meats to no more than 12 to 18 ounces per day. You want to choose other animal proteins more often, such as fish, shellfish, and other seafoods, cheese, yogurt, and eggs. Portion smart. Think of that 3 ounces of cooked red meat, seafood, or poultry, maybe that keeping a visual of that deck of cards or the palm of your hand. And then you want to try more plant proteins like beans, such as kidney, black beans, chickpeas, pinto beans, maybe even edamame. They all add texture and color. With hummus and tofu and nuts or even nut butters are quick and easy ways to add some additional protein. And then really swapping out red meat, trying to incorporate more of those lean meat choices, animal choices, and more of those plant-based choices. So for example, when we're eating out, order fish, seafood, or poultry. Maybe even try chicken and turkey. Cheese, yogurt, and eggs are all great options. Look for those lean meat choices that are grilled, roasted, baked, or broiled. Try to avoid breaded or deep fried. Ask for marinades and sauces to be served on the side to help limit high amounts of sugar and sodium. And you want to choose plant proteins as often as possible. These options are delicious and provide many cancer preventative compounds like fiber, vitamins, and phytochemicals that meats really lack. And then replacing processed meats. One of the first things I think about when we're replacing our processed meats is really in our sandwiches. You can increase the nutrient content of sandwiches, wraps, and burgers by topping them with grilled vegetables, lettuce, and tomato. Replace maybe some of the protein with peanut, almond, or cashew butters. Think of bean spreads such as hummus or black bean. Try to incorporate roasted chicken and turkey, not really the deli style, which is processed. Roasted loin or round of beef, pork, and lamb. Egg, chicken, tuna, and even fish salad are great options. Reduced fat cheeses such as cheddar, mozzarella, provolone, and Swiss are great ways to incorporate other options. So moving on to the next slide, we're talking about substituting with beans and nuts. Try to swap beans for half the meat and chili or maybe spaghetti sauces. Add beans and nuts and seeds to your salads. Mix beans with vegetables and brown rice. They really can all go a long way. And just keep in mind those portion sizes like I mentioned earlier. And then incorporating more plant-based meals and snacks. Try to incorporate at least 1 meal or snack per day that is plant-based. If that's too difficult, maybe just try 1 meal a week or 1 snack a week that is all plant-based. Use those recipes that are crock pot, casseroles, or one-pot meals. Those are a great way to kind of throw everything together and not even realize that you're using healthier choices. Think of a weekly meal plan like meatless Mondays or tofu Tuesdays or bean taco Thursday. Make it fun. So now that we know what foods provide a lot of protein, why we need them, and what portion sizes may be beneficial for us, let's discuss some recipes that I have actually used with my family to help meet the new American plate method and incorporate both plant and animal protein foods. Yeah. Oh, I think someone's microphone got turned on. I'm really sorry. I want to make a point that these recipes can all be found on our blog for Massey within the nutrition resource. So don't feel like you have to write these down really fast. You can find them very easily on that blog. And then I also included the link on each slide too. So when you go back, if you want to review these slides, you can easily take that link off of the slide. Many of the recipes that I use for our recipe corner or to post on our blog are recipes that I've either found on the internet in cookbooks of my own, maybe family recipes that I've transitioned to a little bit healthier options, as well as some recipes through the American Institute for Cancer Research. This first one is actually one that I tailored just a little bit to some items that I already had at home from the American Institute for Cancer Research. It's called Overnight Pumpkin Oats. And this is a great one because, it's something you can prepare at night and then easily eat quick and on the go in the morning. The ingredients are about a half a cup of rolled oats. You can easily use steel cut oats or any other kind of oats. I just prefer the rolled oats for overnight recipes just because they give more of a creamy, smooth texture, where the steel cut oats are a little bit more firm and dense. Has about a half a cup of unsweetened almond milk. Any milk of your choice is perfectly fine. I've used cow's skim milk or low-fat milk in this recipe as well. 1/3 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. This isn't absolutely needed for this recipe, but it adds an additional protein, fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids. 2 tablespoons of pumpkin puree, a tablespoon of maple syrup or honey, half a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then 1/4 a teaspoon of both ginger and nutmeg, and just a pinch of salt if you'd like. Mix all the ingredients in a mixing bowl and add to a container or jar with a lid and refrigerate overnight. Really simple. When I actually made this recipe for our recipe corner, I added some chopped up walnuts, but you can easily add some fresh fruit or dried fruit just to give you some more crunch or some additional flavor. This recipe, if it isn't tailored but actually provided with the ingredients that I have listed here, is packed with about 16 grams of protein. So it's a great recipe and easy and convenient. My young children and husband all enjoy this recipe. The next one is a green spring bowl. This one's great this time of year because here in Virginia, currently we have a lot of greens growing fresh and locally, and it's really easy. So this bowl incorporates 2 cups of cooked couscous, cooled, which is a good alternative for a rice. 1 can of white beans, a bunch of fresh asparagus trimmed and diced. In my picture here, I don't have it diced, but definitely when you're making it for yourself, it's great if you just dice up that asparagus to make it a little bit easier to eat. 4 cups of packed baby arugula leaves. You can use really any mixed green leaves that you'd like. 1 medium avocado sliced, a bunch of radishes sliced thin, and then I did an oil, vinegar, and fresh lemon juice mix. But if you have a vinaigrette dressing that you really enjoy, that would be perfectly fine too. This recipe will make about 4 bowls. So you can either make everything and then go ahead and prepare 4 bowls if you're having company or preparing it for your family, or you can make everything and kind of separate it and then make a salad for each day of the week. And that's kind of what I did when I made this recipe. You want to prepare the couscous according to the package directions. Rinse and drain your white beans, and then you can set them aside. You're going to blanch your asparagus by cooking it in a boiling water for approximately 3 to 4 minutes. The important thing here is you want to make sure your asparagus is tender but stays a bright green. You want to arrange about 1 cup of arugula or any leaf mix of your choice into your bowl, and then about a fourth a cup of white beans, half a cup of couscous, a fourth a slice of avocado, and a fourth a cup a slice of radishes, and about 4 to 5 blanched cooled asparagus to your bowl. And this recipe was so flavorful, and I enjoyed it every day that I had it. I looked forward to lunch when I made this recipe. The next one is a chickpea, feta, and chopped vegetable salad. This one's great because you can use it a lot of different ways. It could be a snack, it could be a side dish, it can be put on over top of mixed greens. It can be served with a small serving of salmon or maybe chicken. It's super flavorful, and I haven't found anyone that doesn't enjoy this salad. It's a great summer recipe too. Hopefully we can get out and about again, and if we are able to go to any cookouts or enjoy company with other people again, this is a great recipe to kind of throw together and take with you. Full of a lot of vegetables. It does incorporate some of the vegetables from my salad as well, so this might be a great one to make in addition to the salad if you're already purchasing radishes. So this one includes about 1 pint of cherry tomatoes, 1 cucumber chopped, a half a small purple onion, 3 radishes, a yellow bell pepper. Really any pepper of your choice is fine. Yellow just gives it a little bit more color. 1 15-ounce can of chickpeas. Make sure you drain and rinse those. A handful of fresh parsley if you'd like. It's not absolutely needed. A half a cup of crumbled feta cheese. And then I used an olive oil, red wine vinegar, and fresh lemon juice mixture to make the dressing. But again, any vinaigrette choice that you prefer is perfectly fine. Chop everything up as I mentioned in the ingredients and put it all in a bowl. Mix in your dressing, and then you can add your parsley and feta. I personally like to put the parsley and feta on the sides just because I like to add it as we go, because if you're going to have this recipe to sit in the refrigerator overnight, I don't feel like the parsley and the feta does as well after sitting in the bowl with all the dressings and stuff. So I typically put it on the side and let individuals add it as we go. Great for leftovers and stored in the refrigerator. All right, and then the last recipe I have on here is one of my favorites. It's a Fiesta crockpot lettuce wraps. Anything that includes using my crock pot is my favorite because it's a throw it all in and forget about it type recipe. So for this one, it does incorporate some animal protein with your chicken breast, about a cup of minced pineapple, which I used the canned pineapple for this one. And then I also used a fresh pineapple for the cubed pineapple option addition. Juice from 2 large oranges, 6 garlic cloves, 2 tablespoons of chipotle peppers, and an adobe sauce. This can typically be found in the grocery store with your canned tomatoes or canned sauces. If you like things a little bit spicier, you can add a little bit more. If you prefer things a little bit more mild tasting, 1 tablespoon is fine. 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, some crispy lettuce, 1 sliced avocado, and about half a cup of sliced grape tomatoes, cilantro, and juice from about 1 to 2 limes. You want to set your crock pot on high for 3 hours or low for 6 hours. And in your crock pot, you're going to mix together your minced pineapples, your orange juice, your garlic, and Dijon mustard. You're going to place your whole chicken breast on top of the mixture and let the crock pot really do all the work. When your crock pot is finished, you can shred your chicken and then place your mixture and your chicken right on top of some lettuce wraps. Add some avocado, some diced tomatoes, and some of those cubed pineapple, and some cilantro, and then drizzle with lime juice. The flavor in this recipe is amazing. So this is a great recipe you could also put on top of rice or eat by itself. It's can be incorporated in many different ways. I really enjoyed this one. So now that we've kind of talked a lot about recipes and protein, and we reviewed the New American Plate, those that were with me last week, we talked about setting goals and challenging ourselves. I'm not sure if any of you all got to do that in relation to some of the things we talked about the American Plate. But I thought before we finished up some of our conversation today and started talking about some of the questions, we could set some goals of our own. So some of the goals I thought some of you may want to try are maybe incorporating one all plant-based meal or snack starting this week. Limit high saturated meat choices and consume no more than 12 to 18 ounces of red meat starting again this week. And then find new ways to keep moving during a break. Something else we talked about last week was exercise. It's important that we make healthy food choices. It's important that we identify and incorporate portion sizes, but being physically active is just as important. All three of those things need to go hand in hand. So we talked about moving around during our break times. So maybe it's parking our car far away and walking a little bit further, getting up from our desks and walking around the room, or making a circle around a parking lot, whatever it may be, but just being conscious to move during our breaks and decrease our sedentary time. Take pictures of your plates. Be proud of the food that you're eating. Try new recipes. Challenge others to meet some of the same goals that you might set today after our talk, or challenge others to give you some more suggestions or incorporate additional goals. It's all great to work together. All right, so in review, we really want to aim for vegetables, fruits, whole grains, or beans to provide 2/3 of each meal, with 1/3 or less coming from animal protein. We want to limit protein choices high in saturated fat, as well as 12 to 18 ounces of red meat per week. We want to incorporate more lean animal protein and plant-based protein options, and we want to set goals and challenge yourself to help make a transition to the new American plate successful. And then please check out the recipes on our nutrition blog for some more great tips and tricks. I want to make it clear that we have some additional sessions coming up. On week 3, we're going to talk about vegetables and fruits. And then on week 4, we're going to dive into more of those whole grains and then do a full recap of kind of everything we've talked about throughout the month of May, throughout this webinar series. I am too, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our poll here, just so if you guys can complete that poll. Can everyone's, let's see here. I'm going to launch the poll. Yeah, so if you don't mind to complete that poll while we start answering questions, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you have questions, I know there's already been some put on here. I'm going to start going through them. But if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat box and we'll try to address all of those. All right, so I'm going to start kind of up here at the top. I have a question about recent studies. Rice coming into the US has high quantities of arsenic and other toxins and heavy metals. It says the research is showing that all rice should be cooked in extra water with water poured off to significantly reduce the amount of toxins. It also notes that brown rice tends to hold on to those toxins, heavy metals, even more than white rice, because of all of the healthy aspects of brown rice. And then it says, do you have types of rice that don't fall into this category? And can you offer insight into this? So I personally haven't dug real deep into the research that you're mentioning here. I do think whole grains and brown rice are beneficial for us. And the toxins and heavy metals that might be present, if they were of extreme concern, I believe they probably would be pulling a lot of that stuff off the market. So other things, if you're not wanting to consume brown rice, there's other options such as barley and quinoa and couscous, which we talked about today in one of our recipes that you might want to incorporate. And then the next question is, when it comes to milk, you've recommended low fat or non-fat milk, but don't they contain higher levels of sugar? So there is this question about sugar, and I do think incorporating dairy and appropriate portion sizes is important. Dairy, when it comes to this new American plate, falls in that 1/3 of your plate or your meal. So it is a smaller portion size. A serving of milk is about 8 ounces, and that is for low fat or full fat milk. When it comes to sugar, we want to keep in mind that that question of does sugar feed cancer isn't exactly clear. Sugar itself does not have a correlation to feeding cancer or causing cancer. Sugar indirectly, does it maybe play a role? Perhaps. A diet typically high in added sugars, as well as calories and fat, does lead to overweight or obesity. So sugar may indirectly play a role. I think it's important that we do pay attention to the amount of sugar that we consume, but small amounts in foods such as milk is okay. If you're consuming a lot of sugar in maybe your baked goods or candies and things like that, I definitely would think that would be more of a concern. Okay, and then what do you think about the current criticism on Lipton found in beans and many nightshades like tomatoes? I really think the important thing we think about here is more about just thinking about consuming whole foods and plant-based foods and not being as concerned about those criticisms and the concerns with tomatoes. As long as we're eating things in moderation and we're eating more plant-based foods and not as much of those high-fat foods, then I think it's okay. I wouldn't be as concerned. Can you weigh in on cow's milk versus soy and almond milk? Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for an alternative milk, there's a lot of different plant-based alternatives, which are perfectly fine. You have to pay attention though, if you are concerned about protein and needing about the same needs of protein as cow's milk, soy milk is going to be one that's most similar to cow's milk. But obviously any of the other plant-based alternatives are perfectly fine. The other question is here, it says almond seems really popular, but only has about a quarter of the protein. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So if you do decide to consume almond milk, think about other ways to incorporate protein like we talked about today. It does have less calories and things like that. So if you're wanting to consume almond milk, it's okay. Again, think about adding protein in other ways. Sorry, I'm reading. Okay. And then I just have another one there. It's someone saying that they're going to be following up with email questions. So anyone who would like to follow up with some email questions are perfectly welcome to send me an email, and the individual has included their email in here, so I will definitely email you back, so you can have my email as well. I get to the next slide here. I'm sorry, I realized I didn't do that. My email is right there, so you can feel free to email me any questions or concerns that you might have. Those who posted questions, do you feel like I answered them okay? Do you have more follow-up with those questions? Those of you who have completed this poll, thank you so much. Yes, please, anyone feel free to email me. Thank you so much. I really hope everyone can participate again next week. I'd love to have you come back and ask questions and be a part of this webinar series. We did stream this through Facebook as well. So if you have any family or friends who would like to view it via Facebook, the video is already on there and can be viewed at their earliest convenience. And then we'll also have this video available on our resource page for nutrition. And if you received an email about our webinar, you'll also get an email with this recording too. All right. Yes, I just got a question. Can we include other individuals in the email reminder? Absolutely. If you'd like an email reminder and you did not get one last week or this week, please send me your email through the chat and we will get you added to our email list. right. Does anyone else have any other questions